Om. We're going to have a series of podcasts on the topic of Jnana Yoga by Swami Vivekananda. The content is available in the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, Volume 2, and I'm going to take up the chapter, The Real Nature of Man. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read out 2 paragraphs from the works of Swami Vivekananda, and then I'm just going to give a very brief explanation of it. Let's begin. Here's the reading. The Real Nature of Man, delivered in London by Swami Vivekananda. Great is the tenacity with which man clings to the senses. Yet, however substantial he may think the external world in which he lives and moves, there comes a time in the lives of individuals and of races when, involuntarily, they ask, is this real? To the person who never finds a moment to question the credentials of his senses, whose every moment is occupied with some sort of sense enjoyment, even to him death comes. And he is also compelled to ask, is this real? Religion begins with this question, and it ends with its answer. Even in the remote past, where recorded history cannot help us, in the mysterious light of mythology, back in the dim twilight of civilization, we find the same question was asked. What becomes of this? What is real? One of the most poetical of the Upanishads, the Kathopanishad, begins with the enquiry. When a man dies, there is a dispute. One party declares that he has gone forever, the other insists that he is still living. Which is true? Various answers have been given. The whole sphere of metaphysics, philosophy, and religion is really filled with various answers to this question. At the same time, attempts have been made to suppress it, to put a stop to the unrest of mind which asks what is beyond, what is real. But so long as death remains, all these attempts at suppression will always prove to be unsuccessful. We may talk about seeing nothing beyond and keep all our hopes and aspirations confined to the present moment and struggle hard not to think of anything beyond the world of senses. And perhaps everything outside helps to keep us limited within its narrow bounds. The whole world may combine to prevent us from broadening out beyond the present. Yet, so long as there is death, the question must come again and again. Is death the end of all things to which we are clinging, as if they were the most real of realities, the most substantial of substances? The world vanishes in a moment and is gone, standing on the brink of a precipice beyond which is the infinite yawning chasm. Every mind, however hardened, is bound to recoil and ask, is this real? The hopes of a lifetime, built up little by little with all the energies of a great mind, vanish in a second. Are they real? This question must be answered. Time never lessens its power. On the other hand, it adds strength to it. So that was the reading. Now let's look at it line by line and just try to understand in a very basic way what this paragraph is supposed to be saying. Of course, from just the very listening to it, we get a very deep idea of what Vivekananda is talking about and how he is trying to build up his ideas to present to us what is the real nature of man. Apart from finding out the real nature, the first thing is to be questioned, or the first thing is to be sought, is this, that what I am experiencing, what I am realizing right now in this life of mine, the life of the senses, is it real? This is his build-up. He's first asking us to ask the basic question. So he says, great is the tenacity with which man clings to the senses. This we all know. Senses is something that keeps us hard and strong, bound to the present moment of existence within the body. He's trying to express the fact that this senses being bound to the soul, the power with which the senses are bound to the soul is indeed very, very great. He says, yet however substantial he may think the external world in which he lives and moves, there comes a time in the lives of individuals and of races when involuntarily they ask, is this real? So he says, even if the senses hold us and grip us with great tenacity, and however substantial means however real or however original this existence may feel, in which he lives and moves, there comes a time in every person, and not just person, in races, where naturally from their very being, they are going to ask this question, is this real? Is this existence that I am experiencing, that I feel, is me? Is this real? Next he says, to the person who never finds a moment to question the credentials of his senses, whose every moment is occupied with some sort of sense enjoyment, even to him, death comes. He says, in all this, forget the person who is even thinking about this, even a person who's not thinking about it, who is so busy in his life that he's not even questioning the reality. And he is occupied with his life, he's occupied with the kind of commitments he has, and even he's occupied with the kind of pleasure and pain that life is giving him. Even to him, death comes. And that person is also, when death comes, compelled to ask, is this real? Swami Vivekananda says, religion begins with this question and ends with its answer. It begins with asking, is this real? And the answer is, what is real? He experiences, or he knows, or he realizes, or he understands what is real. With this, religion ends. Even in the remote past, where recorded history cannot help us, in the mysterious light of mythology, back in the dim twilight of civilization, we find the same question was asked. What becomes of this? What is real? He's trying to tell that it's not now, or it's not something that is a result of all the materialism that we are experiencing. Even without materialism, this question is very innate to man in mythology, in those times of righteousness where everybody was extremely good, dharmic, and living the life of virtue. Even there this question comes. Even in the deepest of our dim twilight of civilization, even in the ancient past, people have always questioned, what becomes of this reality which I'm experiencing so vividly? Is this real? Then he goes on to say, one of the most poetical of the Upanishads, the Katha Upanishad, begins with this enquiry. So our Upanishads, actually, the beauty of the Upanishads is that they don't waste time in trying to set a kind of narrative to the Upanishads. They just directly bombard the question and they just put it as it is. Here he says, the Katha Upanishad asks, when a man dies, there is a dispute. One party declares that he has gone forever, that he's never going to come back. And the other insists that he's still living, which is true. Various answers have been given. So he says that this metaphysics, philosophy, and religion has all answers to this very question. When a man dies, is he gone forever or does he still exist? If he exists, what exists? What continues to exist and what goes? We say that the body goes, but still there are some people who believe that a person exists. In what sense do we exist? So to answer this kind of a question, of what we call the existential questions, the whole sphere of metaphysics, philosophy and religion is really filled with various answers to this question, he says. At the same time, attempts have been made to suppress it, to put a stop to the unrest of the mind which asks what is beyond, what is real. But so long as death remains, all these attempts at suppression will always prove to be unsuccessful. Now he puts another narrative. He says that even in civilization, as this question has been plaguing man, or as this question has been drawing man's attention, there was another stream of thinkers or another stream of believers who felt that this question should not be asked. We need not break our head. We need not pressure ourselves. Swami Vivekananda says that even if such because it causes unrest of mind, answering such a question, it kind of rattles our idea of existence. He says that even if some people try to push that down, as long as death remains, all these attempts at suppression on this most important question, is this real, will always prove to be unsuccessful. He says now, we may talk about seeing nothing beyond. What he's trying to say is that we may say that there is nothing really. It is all right here, right now, and all this is there as far as existence is concerned. He says, we may see nothing beyond, keep all our hopes and aspirations confined to the present moment, and struggle hard not to think anything beyond the world of senses. And perhaps everything outside helps to keep us limited within its narrow bounds. He says we might even actually create a civilization where we don't have to break our heads into thinking of the realities, because we might be successful in flooding ourselves with enjoyment and materialism, where man is not allowed to think beyond the gates of materialism, and he is kept engaged within his senses and made to feel that enjoyment alone is real by providing him various sources of enjoyment. He says even if you make such an environment or such an existence around, even if you create such an existence to not make man suffer with this question, he says even then the death idea will win, and it will still make the person question, is this real? He says the whole world may combine to prevent us from broadening out beyond the present, yet so long as there is death, he says, the question must come again and again. So this is him asserting that the only thing that makes us question reality is the idea of death, is the idea of annihilation of my present existence. And that one thing that is happening in our lives, which no one can stop, is actually a great blessing, because it is again and again going to take us towards truth, going to take us towards questioning the reality of this existence. Is death the end of all these things to which we are clinging? He asks, as if they are the most real of realities, the most substantial of substances. He says that he puts this question, he says this is the question that's going to come up again and again to every man who believes that this existence is real. Is their reality only confined to this, that in a moment it vanishes? I gave reality to this, but I thought that, and I thought that this was real of all realities, but I see that it vanishes in a moment. And then I see that what I thought was the most substantial of substances, the most permanent thing that I believed to exist, that also just vanishes at the moment of death. My annihilation happens and I'm just removed out from this creation. Is this real? I mean, is death the end of all of this? And does everything just vanish in a moment? The world vanishes in a moment and is gone, he says. And that is what that experience is again and again going to question the reality of where we are existing right now. He says, standing on the brink of a precipice beyond which is the infinite yawning chasm, every mind, however hardened, is bound to recoil and ask, is this real? He says that because there is the infinite right beyond, we are limiting ourselves and thinking of its reality. The very presence of that infinite, no matter how hardened the mind is in believing that this reality of mine, this existence of mine has its reality in its entirety, is going to be questioned, because the infinite is always beckoning us. It is always calling us and telling us to experience its nature, because our nature is that. And however hardened a man is, how much ever he has deluded himself or strengthened his belief of the reality of this existence, how much ever he must have done that, this question is going to come. Is this real? Next he says, the hopes of a lifetime built up little by little with all the energies of a great mind vanish in a second. He's showing the impermanent nature of life. He says you build up hopes of a lifetime little by little, put all your energies, but it just vanishes in the moment, in a second. And we ask, are they real? Now he says this question must be answered. Is this real or not? And next he says time never lessens its power. On the other hand, it adds strength to it. So we may assume that, having more time is going to give us more space in enjoyment, more space in reality of this impermanent world, and we are going to continue existing here. He says, no. Even if you think that there is time and you can live within time and continue to create a sort of illusion in this reality and continue living there, Time will never lessen its power. In fact, he says, the more time you think you are going to take, the more time is going to teach you of the impermanence of this existence. So time is also never going to be on anyone's side. Time is also taking us towards this reality, towards experiencing truth. And time, which initially we think is the basis or is the safe haven in which we could continue existing in this illusion, that very time is going to transform itself as a teacher, and it is going to add strength to the questioning, is this real? Therefore, we realize that time is our friend towards the quest of truth. So these two paragraphs for this time. I'll come up with the next paragraph in the next podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.